So you're running out of closet space. The good news? You don't need to stop shopping. You just need to start selling with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. Whether it's that mini bag that can't even fit your phone, or those boots you never fully broke in, The RealReal handles everything from photography and copywriting to shipping and pricing. So you can just sit back, get paid, and make room for things that actually feel like you. And with 10,000 plus new arrivals every single day from top designers like Prada, Celine, Louis Vuitton, and Loewe, all for up to 90% off retail, you're bound to find something perfectly on brand to fill that extra closet space with. Plus, right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Make room for what feels like you. Go to therealreal.com to start selling and get your extra $100 to keep shopping at therealreal.com. That's therealreal.com. Terms apply.
Okay, do you want to know something I think is really awkward, Babette?
What? I'm scared. What?
Okay, I'm thinking about clothing a lot lately because I'm cleaning out all the piles of like clothes that I don't need. But it is kind of crazy that so many like pacifist, liberal queers dress in military clothing and workwear.
No, it's really so true. Wait, what's that print called? It's like, what is it? It's something green. What is it? Like, evergreen? Realtree. I have like I'm looking at like 3 Realtree pieces of my closet right now.
I have platform Realtree Crocs. And that is AI generated.
And that's a sir. Am I right? You are Sir Big.
But I'm like going through like piles and piles of clothes, and like if I looked at a pile of this clothing anywhere, I would be like, this belongs to like a scary man. But it's just like awkward. There's like a lot of like military influence. There's a lot of like blue collar, a lot of uniforms. And I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. Like why is that in there? Like, why do I dress like this? Yeah, I'm like really curious about that.
I mean, I feel like some of it's just like fit. Like that kind of stuff just like fits like better than like some other, some other stuff. I had like a really rich ex who would always wear workwear, and I'm like, that's a little crazy that you do that. Like, you're so rich. Like, cause there's workwear and there's also like just fancy brands that just like make good basics that like that person could just like afford.
Yes.
And it's like, they were just like, well, like it just fits, like Dickies just fit me well. Like,
yeah,
so complicated.
Totally. But it's a little like, yeah, middle class cosplay, which I'm like, oh yeah, is that part of it? But I do think that there's something reparative that I'm after. Like, I'm kind of like bringing in these like really recognizable elements of my upbringing, of like all the UPS driver dads that were like living on my block that I like totally idolized. But I'm kind of like bringing this like Carhartt bomber jacket motif in a way that's like queer, and I'm like, I fit into or something. Like it's like I'm able to recreate that motif, but I'm part of it. And I'm like welcomed in it. I'm kind of like, oh, is that what I'm up to? Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's interesting. And I feel like our guest today, JT, talks about their relationship to workwear in a way that has to do so much like with their family and like kind of using clothing to signify like things about like your gender and who you are.
I'm JT Green, and I am an artist, an audio and music producer, and the founder of the studio Molten Heart.
Awesome. And what pronouns do you use?
I use she, they.
Okay, sweet. So the first question that we always ask people is, how would you describe your gender in your own words, especially outside of like Western binary terms?
Yeah. So I love this question because I think about this a lot. A lot of times when I'm out on walks, I like to take photos of inanimate objects that are like somewhat disrupted in the world. And one of my favorite representations of that, which I realize is so related to like how I see gender, is this rock that had moss growing on it, but also had like a can of soda on top of it. So that is how I would describe my gender.
Wait, that's so good. It's like the natural world meets the quote unquote, maybe like artificial and bubbly. Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I feel like is like where my sweet spot is as far as what I find interesting. So.
Oh, that's so cool. Wait, do you have a sound that you feel like would describe your gender?
Oh, absolutely. A couple. One, when you pop ice cubes inside of a lukewarm glass of water and those little pops that occur after like a couple seconds. That's one. Thinking about the sound of a subway car, but masked underneath a low pass filter is another.
Whoa.
And the whir of a hybrid vehicle that is like coming off of a red light. So that little like before like the engine like sound kicks in. Yeah.
Wait, okay, that's actually crazy because I was parking my car today and I heard like it has a specific like lurky sound, and I literally heard it today as I was parking, and it's kind of like omnipresent. That's so cool. That's do you have this in the back of your head? Like were you
So I like to think of my brain kind of like a finder window that is like always like indexing. So when you asked that question, I just like thought like, okay, like search terms, and like those three immediately just popped in my head, and I'm like, yeah, that is my gender.
Yeah, you just pulled up the tabs. Totally. Yeah. What have been some of the influences for you in exploring your gender presentation? Like, what did that journey look like for you?
Oh my goodness. So there were a couple. I think first it has to be my first friends that I got to know that would identify as like genderqueer or trans, and they were incredibly styled. They were just always just like looking really great. And there was something really special about the way that this friend felt whenever like this person particularly like dressed really dapper, and I saw sort of the joy and energy that they felt. And this was like before like my egg cracked, like years before. And I always had thought about them, and I think they were definitely like one of the first IRL experiences. But I think the first two from like a pop cultural landscape has to be, I believe it's Cleo from Set It Off. Who I think was Queen Latifah's character.
Yes, I think so.
That one really spoke to me as a child, and I did not know why. And now I do. And definitely Lenny Kravitz.
Ooh.
Yeah. And there was just like something that was like this androgyny that I just like loved, that I just did not know what it was called. And I was like, I want that. Whatever it is, I want to feel that. And yeah, I think that's where it started.
So what was the process of seeing that and being like, oh, I want that, and maybe trying to come to embody it in some way?
I would say like the process was like analyzing where this comfort kind of came from, in this sense of like power that I would say these three people, one a celebrity, one a fictional character, and one a friend, where it's the sense that like you're channeling something from within, And for me, it was like, okay, there's something that's being channeled within, and you're telling me something about yourself without speaking. And I'm saying this now as someone who's been able to like process those decades.
Right.
But back then I wasn't thinking that at all. It was just like on the surface, like, oh, that shirt's cool. I'm going to get the same shirt. Oh,
yeah, totally.
that hairstyle's cool. I'm going to do the same hairstyle. But I think it was like kind of atomizing all these different sort of signifiers and pieces of oneself, and then essentially trying them on myself to then see how it felt. And some of them didn't feel well. Some of them definitely stuck. And it was just that process. I want to say that was like my entire just like gender process was just like, try it on. And if you don't like it, try it again. Yeah.
Totally. Or try something different. See how that feels.
Yeah.
Totally. I like what you described. I feel like you're on the internet, so you might know this person. Do you know of the fashion? I wouldn't say blogger, but like she's really into like fashion. Ryan Finn. Do you know her?
I don't think so.
Just what you said about like things being like a signifier, I think is really interesting because they make high fashion very accessible to me because they're just basically like high fashion is just like signaling that you're part of like a certain audience or something. Like I just think that what you're describing is interesting where it's like, oh yeah, these clothes really don't have any particular meaning on their own, but like someone wears them and it's like maybe you're signaling to me that you're like non-binary or something through a shirt, you know? I just think that that's like interesting.
No, it totally is. It's a language. I forgot who was the person behind this, but I heard it on the latest season of Articles of Interest, the podcast, that clothing is a sentence.
Ooh.
And it is. I'm also thinking about this too, because I recently met this really talented stylist, and he was basically saying, I was asking like, what's his like style philosophy? And basically it started with the root of like, what is it that you are trying to say with your clothes? And it's like completely in the same realm of clothing is a sentence.
Totally.
And it's a communication form. It's a work of art. It's like a creative act that like we all do, even people who don't necessarily call themselves artists. It is a communication. And I think that's like when a piece or like a set really works, when it's like, oh, you're communicating exactly what you're intending.
Right. Which is so hard. Like, I feel like the days that I have a really bad day, sometimes it's like, I know I'm not communicating what I want to communicate through my outfit right now because it was just like a hard morning or something.
Yeah.
Those days are tough, you know?
Yeah. And it's like so related to like gender dysphoria too. So
no,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You don't know that I'm wearing this in like a non-binary Y2K way. like you have to know that. Like you have to know.
Right. And it's like, are all the other signifiers like lending itself to that, you know?
Exactly. Okay, wait. One last point maybe on style. I now have to ask you, like, what do you feel like your style philosophy is? Like, what is it that you're trying to convey?
Yeah. I think for me, where I feel like I really land. I was thinking about this the other day, actually, as I recently guest lectured a class a couple days ago.
Ooh.
And I was thinking a lot about, like, what am I going to wear in front of these students? And, like, the class particularly was talking about my sound design philosophy and doing, like, some live demonstrations and things like that. And I was thinking a lot about my influences, and my influences definitely come from where I'm from, which is from the Midwest, a small town, a very like blue collar like family that wore uniforms and military family and all that. And I was thinking a lot about uniform, and I was thinking a lot about labor and being a technician. And a thing that I really love in all of my wardrobe pieces are items of workwear. So like very large coveralls, jumpsuits, heavyweight pants. So that was definitely like the thing that I decided to move forward with that class, was like a base of a bright goldenrod jumpsuit. But over the jumpsuit, which I think goes to like the next piece of my personal style philosophy, is that I like to approach things with like intense precision. So I paired it with a white, oversized Oxford button-down shirt over it. And it was like, it was like crispy white, and it still like gave this intentionality of I am like a specialist in this field and I like know what I'm talking about. And like,
oh, I love that.
And also like this like sense of that, like, I just always think of just like the most influential people in my life. And they always like wore white collared shirts, but like wore them like open. And they would always have like a Clicky shoe. So I paired all that with a Clicky boot, like a black Clicky boot with like a tassel on the back, which definitely goes into like the sense of just like creating a statement, creating sound as like I am in a space. And then on top, I paired it up with a headband that I've been really into lately. It's definitely like my headband gender phase right now. As just like a marker of time of just like, yeah, this is like my phase right now and I'm okay with this phase. And this phase reminds me a lot of my aunt and my mother who like always wore scarves and headbands, either from like working or things like that. So it's like that piece. And then to top it off, these like very large rings, because I love feeling the weight in my hands, particularly when I talk. And I switched the rings on a finger depending upon what I'm doing in the situation. So if I'm having to face the world a lot, if I'm like feeling a little self-conscious or like just have a sense that I'm going to get like some sort of like gender harassment, I put my big chunky rings on my middle finger. And then if I'm in a space that I feel calm and controlled, I put those chunky rings on my pointer finger.
Wow. Is that just like the way it feels? Like how it brings like comfort to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
So I would say like kind of all those things are like in that demonstration is like my personal style philosophy. Like I want to give crunchy but responsible artist that like really knows what she's talking about, but at the same time like loves to rest, but knows like if something needs to get done, it's going to get done.
Oh my God. Wait, even your description of that was like so deeply precise. It was almost Sonic, like you being like this. I could see like the crispy white shirt and like Clicky shoes. Meanwhile, like I'm sure like your white shirt is so crispy. Like meanwhile, like mine's like in my drawer, stained, crumpled into a ball. Like, and like I think I'm trying to get to a place of precision with my style, where like, you know, I feel like younger me, I associated so much with just like, especially with being like a larger person, just like anything that'll fit me right. Like I'm just going to buy it, like da-da-da-da. And like now I'm really trying to be like, actually like many things can fit me, which is obviously like also the privilege of being like a mid-sized to like small fat person. But like I really want my things to be, I guess I'm very inspired by your level of precision, and I hope that I get there someday because I find it very inspiring.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it took quite a few years. It took like over a decade, I think, to really figure out. But I really feel like definitely it's just like transitioning, like completely unlocked it all. And it just like, I feel like it just charged it all into overdrive.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, I want to transition, a little bit. I want to transition into talking about your sonic practice. And I'm curious, like, just for like the listeners, for the audience, if you could just like tell us about your sonic practice, like how you would like to describe it.
Yeah. So as far as like my practice goes, I like to say that I am an audio documentarian by trade and an artist by practice. And what I mean by that is that like, I just like really have a strong relationship with naming labor, which I think just comes from being a working artist for some time and coming from like, I don't know, like a background and family that kind of really took pride in everything that they did. I very much look at like my audio documentation work as like definitely a reflection of my labor. And as my artist work, I relate to it as a practice because it's literal practice. It's a thing that feels to be like, for lack of a better phrase, keeps me alive. And it is a thing that I consciously think about in all of my interactions throughout the day with what it is that I take in, what it is that I think about. There's like a practice to paying attention to the things that I find worth paying attention to. So I look at that as like my practice. And sort of the three buckets that I really find interesting is improvisation and how we create associations with things, either based on like subconscious or conscious means, either through like the production of items like sound works or music or writing or like I love surrealism and I love like surrealist and all that stuff. So in that realm, the convergence of technology and the self, which is something that I have been interested in and really considering ever since I was a child, and definitely like manifested itself in like my previous time as like a tech worker. And lastly, the intersection of gender and race, particularly like how we express the two online. If it was like a Venn diagram, anything that kind of like sits within those three circles and kind of like things that sit right in the middle, with sound being kind of like the lens that it's all focused in, feels to be like a place that I like to sit in. And then from there, it's like sound is the thing that is the most considered as far as like the medium that's used to portray the message. And then it can fork off to like other materials.
Right. Yeah. I like the way that you described how like sound is just like one of the ways that it happens to come out. Like I think about that a lot, and I'm thinking about that especially as like I move towards other mediums. It's like sound just kind of happens to be this thing that I'm like most intrigued by and trained in, but like, you know, there's other forms that it can take. And like I feel like those three buckets or those three themes that you just talked about like showed up like so much in like your recent show at Union Docs, which I want to talk about. So the piece you performed, right, was called Shadow Boxer, and I feel like I want to paint a picture for the listeners. It's like you at the center with like these projections of kind of like social media related text like in the background, if I'm remembering correctly, or like kind of these evolving projections, and like a pianist / like flautist on one side and a singer on the other. And like you are live producing your own vocals and like sound designing live, like improvising live. And I would just love for you to talk about this work, because I felt like it was such a interesting exploration of like gender and like how it's reflected, how we see ourselves reflected in technology. And like, I would love if you can maybe just like talk about the work and like how it came to be and like what inspired it.
So yeah, how Shadow Boxer came to be, usually with my work, it comes out in two different ways. Either it starts off with like an evocative sound or image that I either come across or make, and I just kind of sit with it. And I'm like, there's something why I'm drawn to this thing. And then I try to like reverse engineer, why did I find this thing really interesting? And then I break that out further and I'm like, what are the steps that led to like why I found this interesting? And then I might bring it to my therapist. And then figure out like how to like generate something out of that feeling. So it's either that or what happened with Shadow Boxer, where I will look at scraps of writing that I've done over a set period of time. I love thinking about time and structure, particularly in a lot of my work, and that kind of generates in how I create as well. So I basically had like set aside a parameter of kind of like a search filter, so to speak, of just like this period of time, these words, what were you thinking about in regards to this? And just kind of like do all like journal entries. And then I gathered them all as like source material, dumped them into a doc, like all of these fragments. And I'm like, what is going on with these fragments? What is happening? And so I started trying to rearrange the fragments until they like kind of resembled somewhat of like a narrative. And I'm like, okay, there's something happening here. And I started to like write transitory like language, so kind of like thread the thoughts. And I'm like, okay, this is like starting to get around somewhere. And then it began to like unfold that like there were a lot of these things I was thinking about in regards to like how I have looked through myself through the lens of like technological objects for a good chunk of my life, and how much that distorted vision, that sort of like depersonalization, essentially led me to realize that I was trans. And I was like, okay. So like, I was like, okay, I have like kind of like a narrative structure of like kind of how to like make this thing. And then I was just, really churning on it some more. And, I had like told some other friends about it, who were the two that joined me on stage. Two dear friends, one Amy Marison, the other Alex Washington. And I shared them with this, and we had already had like a jam circle, so to speak, where we just kind of met and played music like once every couple of weeks, either at like my place or Amy's. And like we had developed this sort of like musical practice that was like very kind of spiritual in a way, where we would kind of come in with a thought that we were having and we wanted to like kind of express, and then we would just like play. And we also worked very much in scraps and sort of rearranging like thoughts. And then it like clicked, and I was like, what we're doing over there is so similar to like what I'm doing in this text. We should bring the two together. And then from there, it just kind of evolved into this essentially site-specific piece where every time it's been performed, twice with Alex and Amy, and once by myself, it's all been different. So like the base of the piece is still the same, which is this performance of this poem along with live instrumentation and scoring, but there's one element that is site-specific to the space. So in one instance, while the performance was going on, we had dishes with water where people can let go what it is that they want to let go of and dissolve the thoughts they've written down into essentially these like bowls. There was one where I live mixed audio pieces that were inspirational in the thinking behind the piece. And then the one at Union Docs where I introduced the element of myself as like a performance element in the audience. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I want to clarify and maybe also just hear more about this idea of how I think like through realizing like your depersonalization as connected to like devices, that's how you kind of realize you were trans. Could you tell me a little bit more of that? Like, I don't know if this is related, but I've been going through a phase of like looking through old photos recently of like myself, like in my camera roll, and being like, oh, like I've kind of always been this way, like in this way that's like very affirming. And so I'm wondering if it's like that. Like, could you just tell me a little bit more about what you meant by that?
Yeah. So it's definitely a mixture of that and this nature of just like thinking about like the physical act of like latency in the camera. So I'll start off with first what you mentioned. Yeah. Going back to old photos and seeing those little glimpses of yourself back before you knew what you knew about yourself did feel really right. And it was like, again, the sense of I had so much time from those periods that I can look back and see this person who always had her in them, you know? And from the technological sense, this depersonalization, like even thinking about like how I'm looking at my reflection in this window as we're talking, like my hand is, slightly delayed because of latency from like the camera and everything, which then is like tricking myself into feeling like, is this person actually me? Or is this person like this like kind of like other version of oneself? And then with that, I tend to think, oh, this person that I'm looking at who looks like myself, are they feeling kind of like the same way that I feel in a way? And it was definitely apparent like once, we all started to use Zoom a lot more, and that reflection I started to become a lot more acquainted with. And it was an acquaintance that I did not welcome, as opposed to one that I see now and I delight in.
Wow. That's so interesting because, yeah, when you look at these images of yourself, like on a screen, it's like, you know, it's you and it's also not. And I feel like you captured that so perfectly. Like, it's like, okay, I can see parts of myself in this image from like, right now there's like a trend on Instagram where it's like, show a picture of yourself from 2017. And so I was looking at pictures of myself and like in 2017, it's like, okay, this is me and it's not. And it's kind of, it feels more like a play on a graph than like the graph itself. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, This is just like one capture, like one moment of like me, I guess, you know?
No, totally.
When your gender evolves, like it can really be such a trip to like look back at those photos, right? So.
Oh, it's wild. It is so wild. Yeah. I've got like a little album on my phone, for that reason. So I can just kind of like have those moments when either I'm like, oh, I'm having a bad gender day and I can just go into there, or just like a moment like you said, it's just like, whoa, that's a trip. Like both y'all look so different, but like also like you're low-key the same.
Totally. Do you feel like your sonic practice has like evolved alongside your gender, and how maybe have they influenced each other?
Yeah. So I found myself looking back first before realizing how it's changed now. And a thing that like really kind of like blew my mind is that before I, started transitioning, I realized that so much of my sonic practice was so interested in the performance of gender and the sonic properties of like the gendered sonic properties. So like I was looking back at like this piece that I made in, I think it was like 2009. And it was this piece called Mama Didn't Raise No Fool. And I made it for this solo exhibition I had in 2012 that was kind of all about like what we're talking about now. It's like that thing when you like look back at your old work and you're just like, what was I trying to figure out? And
right.
Just like now
I'm
it's
just
like
so hung up on gender for some crazy reason.
Hung up on the internet and gender and race.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, girl, just chill. Like, go touch some grass. Like, but this piece, I took all the curse words from this Lil Jon song that was like, I think the Guinness Book World Records at the time for like the most curses per song or something along the nature of that. And I like strung out this like kind of 2-minute composition, but then I downsampled the composition like X times the frequency of the average Black male. And then it essentially turned into this like warbly sonic texture that in the gallery space, like I turned up enough that it sounded like an HVAC, but like you can kind of feel as you were in the space, but like you couldn't really identify where the sound was coming from. So like I was thinking about that piece and thinking about like, oh yeah, like you've been always interested in sort of like the subconscious like effect and performance of just like gendered sound and it like found its way through like a lot of other works that I've done. And I think until transitioning, it almost felt like it gave me freedom to just really go all out and explore because now I can identify what it was that I was trying to figure out. So it feels like a lot like turning up the gas stove a little bit once I've like identified why the obsession was taking place. And then that sort of like renewed energy then makes me like kind of tackle the themes like that I was trying to explore prior and be like, okay, like how can I like do that with like a lot more knowledge and like increased skills and just getting older and having life experiences.
Totally. Now we're really cooking with gas.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like it's a very much like it is like a circular conduction. I forget which process that is. Process in which like the past is informing the present and then like the present excitement fuels the future. So then I go back to the past and yeah. So it just keeps going around.
Okay. Well, that was my last question. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd want to talk about?
I am very shocked that we did not talk about queer sound or like what makes sounds queer. Like that is a thing that like I've been thinking a lot about because myself and the artist Ariana Martinez got interviewed for this academic journal about this prompt, about what makes a sound queer. And I think it's going to be like released soon.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's just a thing that like I've been thinking a lot about in various instances in regards to like the sounds that I'm particularly drawn to and the nature of just like essentially like audibly flagging oneself as we do with our clothing that we can do through our sound and our sonic properties.
Oh, so true. Did you feel like you guys got some kind of answer for like what makes a sound queer?
Yeah. So it reminded me a lot of, there is this essay. I believe this might be a response essay, but it's the one that I first came across. And it's the essay Elsewhere After the Flood, Glitch Feminism and the Genesis of Glitch Body Politic. And it's on Rhizome by Legacy Russell. And that got me thinking a lot about glitch as a form of like disruption and glitch inherently being queer and feminist in the way and sort of like the exposure of a framework of something that appears to be seamless in one's way. And I was thinking about that when thinking about queer sound particularly. And the sounds that I think are pretty queer are when you're holding a microphone and then you hear...
You're so right.
The mic rattle.
Yes.
I think what sounds queer is the gaps in silence before a thought and then slowly hearing like the mouths kind of just like open up before someone speaks. I think it's like things that have like a mixture of showing the full personhood of the person behind the sound, but then also like an exposition of like the labor and infrastructure behind said sound. I think it's like where my definition came across. I can't recall Ariana's off the top of my head, but yeah. That's what I think.
Oh, that's so good. My dissertation is like, I'm trying to get out like what like a 20th century concept of like Black feminist sound work looks like. And it's reminding me so much of that, where like I'm looking at Black women radio performers basically and kind of like the traces of their labor and their sonic labor. And I think what you said of like these moments that like reveal labor and personhood is so interesting. And now I'm trying to think of like what other sounds are queer. I feel like when one of our dogs starts barking, like when we're recording, like that's a queer sound. Like Clem barking when Allie's recording is a queer sound. I think another queer sound is like my roommate works really long days. I joke that like I'm kind of like the housewife of the house, and like basically like when they come home, like it's like the dog scampering to go see them, and then it's me. Like I'm just waiting by the door, excited to see them. And I think hearing the turning of their keys is like a queer sound, like waiting for them to come in.
I love that.
Oh my God. Such a good prompt. I feel like we need to ask listeners like to submit their queer sounds or something, because it's just like, oh my God, that's so good. And I'm so happy you brought that up.
I loved your example of glitch because it reminded me of that Legacy Russell book Glitch Feminism, in that they're really talking about how glitch is seen as like an error or like a mistake. And I think that also feels very queer as well. Like there's a lot of energy coming at us that's like, you have to have gotten something wrong, like with how you're proceeding.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
It's kind of just like and I mean it's in the best way, it's like kind of like an owned like amateurism, you know,
God,
in a way.
yes.
It's just like, and it's like, I fucking love people.
Yes.
Like, it's great.
People are faking being experts.
Totally. Okay, this is totally putting you on the spot, so you can absolutely like reject it. The poem that you were talking about for Shadowboxer. Yeah. I'm wondering if you could like read an excerpt.
I am totally okay with that.
Okay, great.
Okay. I reach over and touch my phone, a sandwich of glass and metal. It's cold to the touch, but warms in my hand to the point where it becomes an extension of my limbs. I gaze in the black glass and my reflection stares back. Two-dimensional, blurry, and smudged by the oils of the pads of my fingertips. It's the closest vision I'll have of the formless being I'll never be. I tap the camera icon to perceive myself, to remind myself that I exist in space and being experienced by others, that I'm a form of mass beyond a brain and my thoughts are driving this corporal being.
I don't know if you feel this way, but sound is something I really have to slow down to notice. Like, I feel like that's part of, like, the allure of, like, hiking or camping is it's, like, a lot of that noise is gone and you can, like, actually hear, like, the sound of the breeze and trees, or I don't know, it's, like, very calming. And JT just seemed like she's, like, really paying attention to that level of sound, like, at all
the
times. And I just am, like, that's so inspiring.
Or even just like objects too. Like I just love like her description of herself as like having these like finder tabs and like all these descriptions.
Locked and loaded.
Yeah, like so ready. And I think it's making me realize like, you know, like when my parents like would scold me and be like, like, you know, you don't pay attention. You're kind of unperceptive. I'm like, no, I literally don't be paying attention. Like I don't know what's going on most of the time, but like she is so tuned in a way that I feel like I really appreciate. And like, I love this idea of like queer sound. I feel like it's literally not something I've like necessarily thought about before. And now I'm like,
yeah,
what are other queer sounds? Like,
yeah,
what's out there? Allie, what do you think of as like queer sounds?
I really can't get past the glitch. I think that that's such a great way of describing like a soundscape, or kind of like, because I was just like, my first thought was like techno.
Right.
Electronic music is queer sound.
Right.
Like, you know.
Are there any construction tools that are queer? Like are there any construction sounds that are queer sounds?
A sawzall cutting through a table at our photo shoot.
That's literally what I was thinking of. Yeah. Gender Spiral is an original podcast from Audiation. This episode was mixed by Matt Noble, with art by Joey Hahn and graphics by Honey Hodges. This show is executive produced by Ireland Meacham, myself, Babette Thomas, my co-host Allie Beardsley, and Sandy Smullins, with additional story editing from me. Thank you so much to our guest today, JT Green. We'll link to her Instagram and her website in the show notes. She was such an amazing guest, but also provided some of the sounds that you heard in today's episode. She's just a multi-talented queen.
If you like the show, please head over to patreon.com/genderspiralpodcast to support us for $2 a month, or subscribe to a higher tier for bonus content, special monthly postcards, and even free tote bags. You can also check us out at genderspiralpod.com, where you'll find a link to leave us a voicemail to ask us questions, tell us who you want to hear from, and what you want to hear about on the show. And follow us on Instagram. It's at Gender Spiral. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast to stay tuned To Gender Spiral,
where you never have to spiral alone.
Audiation.